ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Nobody is Shiftier, because in fact, nobody is shiftier than the Shifty Hippo. Now, guys, I know I usually break into some sort of immediate sports diatribe, or I go in here and I tell you what we're going to be talking about. We'll get there in a second. First, I need you to understand something. Of all the days that I've been on this planet, if I was ranking this one, it wouldn't be the bottom by any means. It's actually pretty far from the bottom, but it's still far as hell from the top. Let me explain. I It's my day off, so I was up pretty late last night. The only time that I could record my other show, Jacked and Canned, with my buddy John because of our work schedules was this morning. So I got up probably about 8:50, I think is when I actually got out of bed. It means I got about 5.5 hours of sleep. I went right over to 7-Eleven. I got a big gulp. I had a big gulp at 9 in the morning. I was that guy. I had a giant Pepsi from the fountain at 9 a.m. Came back here, recorded with John, and just don't quite feel like I ever got enough sleep, but I had to stay up because we haven't had hot water all week. And the oil guy is coming, not to fill the oil. That already happened yesterday, but there was a gentleman coming to pilot the hot water heater. I don't know what the hell that means. Believe me, I know nothing about that stuff. And he's coming here and he's telling me several things. He's like, okay, so either your gauge is broken or this piece over here is defective. As long as nothing goes over 40 over here, you should be good. And then just bring it up to your technician next year. I'm like, do I have hot water? Dude, do I have hot water? That's all I need to know. But as this guy arrives here, right? So as I mentioned, it's my day off. I'd gotten done doing Jacked and Canned, and I'm looking around the condo, and I'm like, hey, we got some alone time. There's one certain intimate act that you can do alone. Well, let's dive into that, see what that's all about today. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. If not, you're misreading. It's pretty clear and obvious. Get to the point where, we're at the end, and pretty much at that ending moment, the doorbell rings. It was this guy showing up. So I'm trying to pretend like I know how to cover up like the mass murder scene from one of these television shows that are out these days. I'm sitting here covering things up, I'm wiping things down, I'm doing all sorts of things in a panic. I come sprinting down here, I got another issue. I got to pee. And for any gentleman out there, they know that when you have to pee and there is a certain scenario that is still taking place after an intimate activity that doesn't always go away right away. Well, it's not going to go away. And I'm not putting on jeans on my day off. So here I am, tucking everything into sweatpants man's, trying to tie it off, cut off circulation, do whatever I can. And all I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? Luckily, I am 5'4". There is nobody that's going to even be able to notice that because, like, I got a big nose. And for most tall people, they don't see much past that anyway. Like, that's as far straight down as they can see. I open the door. This dude's exactly my height. I'm like, fuck me. But I don't know. I mean, he might have had like an inch on me, but I also had like 1 inch more on him protrusion wise. So, I think it all evens out. I'm not sure. Point of it being, guys, this day's just not going great. And I can't even nap at this point. It's too late in the day to take a nap. Because if I try to go to bed right now, I'm going to sleep till like 5 or 6. I can't do those 20-minute naps that people do. And I got to get up at 6:30 tomorrow morning for work. So I'm not sure how to go about living the rest of my day, other than I'm probably just going to be a little bit pissy and miserable. But oddly enough, most people find me to be more entertaining when I'm pissy and miserable. So we're going to start up sports now. We're going to start off with the NBA, which at this point, there's not a whole lot to talk about because KD and Kyrie still haven't moved, and I'm getting sick of it, honestly. Like, can we just move them? Can I have this so that I know where these two guys are going to play next year? I'm tired of waiting. I've been on KD watch. Like, I'm out here with binoculars, like looking outside to see if I can find KD just roaming around Vernon, Connecticut. He's not out here. Gonna let you know. KD's not here. Kyrie, not here either. Been watching. So the only real new development with this story is that the Boston Celtics have started up trade talks for potentially gathering KD. Now, you might remember when KD originally went to the Warriors, and I believe it might have even been in talk when he left the Warriors, although it was lesser talk then because it was kind of known him and Kyrie were going to New York. You just didn't know which New York team. But when KD originally joined with the Warriors, there was a lot of talk of KD going to Boston. Now, at that time, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that would have been just before Kyrie went over to Boston. And I don't know if maybe that had been some pre ambiguous plan that those two had schemed together. I doubt it. But point of it being is that KD has shown in the past that he has interest in going to Boston. That didn't seem to come up anytime since he joined Golden State. However, I wouldn't be shocked if maybe he would be okay with going there. And it seems as this trade package comes together, from what I understand, this would include Jaylen Brown, a bunch of first round picks. And the thing that seems to be stopping the Celtics from doing this is they want Marcus Smart as part of the deal. So you part with Marcus Smart. What are you doing? KD, Marcus Smart. No, come on, man. Like, I get it. Marcus Smart is in a lot of ways the heart and the soul of the Boston Celtics. But when you look at what he is on the floor, yeah, he's a very good defensive player. I know he won Defensive Player of the Year. He's not the best defensive player on the Boston Celtics. He's just not. Robert Williams is far better. Honestly, I could make arguments that Brown and Tatum are better. And really, when we break it down, I could make arguments about Al Horford and Grant Williams being just as good. So I don't want to get into ranking the Celtics players defensively, but I don't think that it's that big of a deal to give up Marcus Smart to get Kevin fucking Durant. This one's a no-brainer to me. You already added Jaylen Brown, which that one I was like, yeah, I probably would too. But that one I'd at least think about because Jaylen Brown is an ascending star. He's not a superstar, but he's definitely a star. He's somebody that's going to be making all-star teams over the course of the next decade. You're hesitant because of Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's fine. He does stuff. You know what he doesn't do? Really run an offense. He doesn't ball handle that well. His shooting is erratic. He's pretty good at from the spot up three. He is pretty damn good. But when he drives to the rim, I never know what the hell's going to happen next. I don't understand why this one's a holdup for Boston. Like, no, hey, Marcus Smart, do it. You'll be the best team in the East for at least the next 3 years. KD's not really fading. If anything, I mean, yeah, he has shown a little bit more of a proneness to injury over the last few years. He had the Achilles tear, he had ankle issues. He's had some things going on. But he's not like out all the time. And when he plays, he's one of the best players in basketball still. I would absolutely say he's top three. I don't understand where this is coming from. So that's the only real new development. Personally, I don't want to see that because as somebody that is a, well, LeBron first fan, but the team that I'm relatively following has been Miami, and I don't really want to see Boston get that much better. They already got better by adding Malcolm Brogdon. I don't want to see the Boston Celtics come into this season now with KD also. That is just too much. Nobody's beating the Celtics if it's Tatum and KD. That's like two of the top maybe 13 players in the league. I don't know exactly where I'd put Tatum. I'd have to really sit down and think about it. But I look at this and I'm saying to myself that this seems like a no-brainer. What are we doing? Outside of that, that is all that the NBA has to offer right now. Most of their coverage has been about the Drew League, and they're doing the thing on like I've got the NBA app, and the NBA app's just releasing like, hey, check out all the all NBA teams of all time. Like just every year, here's the all NBA team 2021, 2020, 2019. And it just goes back as far as the list goes. It's like, okay, it's interesting, but I could Google that. I didn't need you to put it in front of me. I've actually looked at them several times. Not a lot there. The Drew League, sweet. Uh, Everybody's going nuts about LeBron going in there and having an awesome game. It's like, well, yeah, it's the Drew League. It's pro-am basically. Right? It's the closest thing to pro-am that there is. Hold up. While I'm also still in the function of letting everybody know that I am not having my greatest day, my energy's not great. I will probably take more beer breaks during the show than I typically do. The first of which is coming right now. God, that's good. So, with it being a slow sports week, we do have some football stuff here. And I will say at the end of the show, probably should have led with this instead of a boner, but we're going to talk top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. I have my list ready. I have it good to go. I'm ready to explain it. I've looked at it comparative to other people's lists so that I can make sure that I realize that I am, in fact, more right than they are. I'm good to go. But this is a slow ass time in sports. So I'm thinking about it. What else do people talk about? Talk about television shows. Okay. Been watching Only Murders in the Building. It's pretty good. I don't think that I have the wherewithal to really break it down, especially considering when I was coming back from overnights, I fell asleep 3 straight times trying to watch the same episode. So I don't think that I'm really a good go-to on that. I watched a movie with Michelle the other night, The Lost City, with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock. Small appearance there by Brad Pitt, who I realized is my favorite actor. Total revelation. And it was in that moment that I think it hit me. I knew he was up there, but I didn't definitively have a favorite actor. That's when it hit me. My excitement by hearing his voice. It was before he was even shown. Just I heard his voice and I'm like, oh, shit, Brad Pitt. Yeah, I would say he's my favorite. Love a lot of his movies. I'm thinking I'm probably going to watch Fight Club later today. That's going to be something I do today, along with get probably Chili's. I keep telling myself get Panera because I was kind of craving Panera yesterday, but at this point, like I'm kind of pissed off, and Chili's makes me smile. So I think I'm going to do that. Gonna get a 30. Really, just for stock. I don't need the 30 right now, but just to stock up. I like to keep a full stock. Obviously, I take beer breaks while just doing the show. Kind of need more. Um, I tried to talk to several people about this James Webb telescope. Nobody seems to give a shit. Um, I thought, like, here's the thing. I tried talking about this thing. I tried talking about it with Jimmy. I tried talking about it with John. My take's not even that this thing is awesome. It's just that I'm getting pissed off at people's reactions that they're all saying, I feel so small. I feel so small. When we know that space is infinity, that is what we are taught as children. All we see now is that there is more of infinity than we saw previously, which is cool, but it doesn't make us smaller. I am still 5'4". That's my whole take. That's the whole thing. And everybody's listened to that part, but anytime I've asked anybody, hey, have you seen this? Nobody gives a shit, huh? Okay. It's kind of like baseball. How about that? I've been watching the show Tell Me a Story. It's kind of it's not even really loosely based around fairy tales. It's basically just taking the names of different fairy tales and having them interlooped into one giant story that that aren't really the original stories by any means. So I'm not exactly sure where to go with all that, but I've been watching it. It's pretty cool. I'd recommend it. Don't ask me where I watch it because I have no clue. Michelle's got all these different streaming services. I have no idea what I'm watching anything on. I just know I'm watching it. Like that's as far as I know. I know what the show is called. You can go find it. I did decide that this fall I'm going to ball out a little bit, right? So I haven't done NBA League Pass in you know what? The last time I did it was LeBron's second year in Cleveland when they ended up winning the title. That was the last time that I did NBA League Pass. And the reason that I got it was because I wanted to I'd watched it the year before that and that year. It was because I wanted to make sure that I was catching a bunch of LeBron and Cleveland games. I was happy. And in Miami, they put like damn near every game that Miami played on national television. So there was no point in getting League Pass. Like I didn't need it. I could just watch them on TNT every night. Well, at this point, I'm like, okay, let me get League Pass. And the way that it used to work is that it used to be you sign up and you sign up for a certain package. And it was based on, okay, you can watch all of one team's games. You can watch all of either two or three teams' games, or you can watch five teams' games, or you could get the whole NBA. And it was different price points. So my thought was, I'm like, you know what? I'll do a 3-team deal here. And my thought was, okay, I'll get the Lakers so I can watch LeBron. I'll get the Heat and I'll get Portland because I really like watching Dame Lillard play too. And it turns out that now all of the league passes just have the entirety of the NBA and it's just different, either bonus features that you get or more insider stuff, things along those lines. So I'm just going to get the basic thing so I can just watch all the games. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, and it's like, well, blacked out in your area, the Celtics and the Knicks. Like, okay. Because locally here we have Nesson that we could watch the Celtics on, and we have the Yes Network for. Oh no, that's for Brooklyn. So it must have been Brooklyn and Boston. I'm like, okay, I'll live. Brooklyn's probably about to be a shit team anyway, and Boston, I'll see him when I see him. Otherwise, I get to watch all the games. It's sweet. I'll take that. Give that to me all day. I'm also going to be balling out where I'm going to be buying the new NBA 2K22 and the new Madden 22. Because right now I got 2K19 and Madden 19. And although I keep up with the rosters and, sometimes I'll create a player to bring in a new guy, there's a certain point when it's like, okay, just get the newest game, spend the money, get the newest game. You'll have the newest rosters. You'll have all the cool stuff. You'll have all the kids. So I don't have to sit here and spend like an hour creating 14 players. It'll be worth it. So I'm going to make that happen. Which also makes it pretty cool because it kind of means right now I can do whatever I want with my 2K19 and my Madden 19, so I don't have to keep the rosters intact. Like right now, I'm playing with a Heat team that's got in his prime LeBron, Dame Lillard, and I traded Kyle Lowry for Dame Lillard, so there's no Kyle Lowry there, but otherwise it's like the whole Heat team with just prime like 29-year-old LeBron James and Dame Lillard. Sweet, I'm winning every game by 60. I love it. And with Madden, I get to do this thing where, like, because Marshawn Lynch is still on this game, yeah, he's a 99 overall. He runs the ball for me. So with that, we can actually slide on over to the NFL, where I do have some Seahawk news. Some unfortunate things, actually. Chris Carson and KJ Wright both retire within about a day of each other. So for Chris Carson, he played in the league 5 years, all with Seattle, and he ended up with some real neck injuries. There's no other way to put it. He had some real neck problems, and for any of these guys, the neck's a dangerous injury to have. You saw it with Peyton Manning towards the end of his career, and granted, he was able to originally come back and then break the record for touchdowns in a season, but it was only a matter of time before that hindered him to the point where you guys might not remember this, but Peyton Manning's last season, he won the Super Bowl, but he had 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions that year. Terrible. Like, you could make the argument that Peyton Manning was actually the worst quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. And yes, that's just saying that year because clearly Peyton Manning's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But that specific season, he might actually be worse than Trent Dilfer, worse than Brad Johnson, worse than any of these other quarterbacks that people like to bring up immediately as quarterbacks that probably shouldn't have won a Super Bowl. So I think that that part is interesting. However, back to Chris Carson, it's sad. As a Seahawk fan, Chris Carson, he wasn't Marshawn Lynch by his running ability, but the style was somewhat similar. He had the truck stick, and he didn't have phenomenal straight line speed, but neither did Marshawn Lynch. If you ever remember back, there wasn't a whole ton of times that you saw Marshawn Lynch just blow past a defense. He blew through a defense. He didn't get by guys very often. And even though Marshawn had a little bit of a agile quality to him, his game was power, as was Chris Carson's. It was kind of like a poor man's version of Marshawn Lynch. Not to take away from Chris Carson, but it was really fun watching him play, and I'm very happy that we got to spend the time we did with him. Immediately, this does actually, to an extent, open up to where I feel a little bit better about our running back room, and not because we're missing Chris Carson, but now at least we only have really three running backs that'll be touching the ball, because we know that Travis Homer is essentially a special teamer. So this means that now Rashad Penny, rookie Kenneth Walker III, and DJ Dallas will be the three guys that are going to be putting their hands on the ball. I think that that's probably better off than having a fourth guy to add into the mix, and you're trying to figure out, well, who's going to get the touches this week? Who do we think is going to be the guy? Well, three running back teams, they tend to be able to make that work. I assume that this will be a scenario in which DJ Dallas is probably the number three guy. He'll get touches here and there. But Kenneth Walker's probably going to get a pretty large chunk of touches, and at least early on, until inevitably, I'm sure he gets hurt and is out for 9 weeks, Rashad Penny will be taking the majority of the snaps. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I am sad that Chris Carson retires. I'm not too disappointed with the running back room at this point. KJ Wright, 10-year Seahawk, rather, spent his last year in Vegas. He's been hanging around the Seahawks all offseason here, so we thought we were going to be re-signing him. What we didn't realize, it was going to be for a one-day deal, and that's going to be his retirement. Now, KJ Wright only made one Pro Bowl in 2016, but KJ Wright was actually a pretty substantial piece of our defense during the Legion of Boom era. And, even going a little bit past the Legion of Boom, it was Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. You could throw in whatever third linebacker you wanted. It didn't matter, because those two guys could pretty much take care of it. You could essentially, if you wanted to, you could use, as a Seahawk defense, you could use like a nickel package where at all times you just had Bobby and KJ out there, and you could add an extra corner or an extra pass rusher, whatever the case may be. You could make your defense work differently than a lot of other defenses in the NFL, because you had two solid ass linebackers. Now, one day I'm sure we'll have the conversation about top 10 inside linebackers, because I've actually been having it myself with some of the guys from breaking down the tape here. And I haven't gone through and actually really ranked it out. I don't think that Bobby Wagner is going to come anywhere where like Ray Lewis is, for example. But I don't think you go very far down the list before you get to Bobby Wagner. So I'd be interested to really come up with that list sometime for myself and for this audience. But in the meantime, the way that I would say it in regards to KJ Wright is I think he was a little bit underrated as far as his career goes, because you look at the one-time Pro Bowl and you're like, oh, see, he had one good season. He didn't. I think he had 4 or 5 years that he had over 100 tackles, which I know that tackles is a stat that really can fluctuate. For example, the Seahawks last year had two guys that broke the record for most tackles in a season, with Jordan Brooks and with Bobby Wagner both breaking the record. Jordan Brooks just happened to have more of them, so he now holds the record. And as we go forward with the Seahawk linebacking core, well, now Jordan Brooks is going to be that guy. And Cody Barton seems to be like he's going to be a pretty good secondary linebacker to have. We'll have to see beyond that. I have faith in some of the kids that we got, but not trust. Let me put it that way. But I do like what we have there with Jordan Brooks and Cody Barton. So some other football topics that have been going on here. Lofa Tatupu is still ripped. I saw him put a picture out on Twitter the other day, and I'm like, you know what? Why don't you come be our third linebacker? He looks awesome still. Heinz Field. I don't know if you guys heard about this. The Steelers Stadium has changed from Heinz Field to Acrisure Stadium, or Acrisure Field. I don't know what they're calling it, but it's Acrisure. I don't know what it's for. I'm assuming insurance. probably medically based. I don't know. That's a terrible stadium name. And Heinz made sure that they were going to keep a stadium presence because now there is still the Heinz Red Zone. Heinz, you got to do better than that. Like, the Steelers are my least favorite team in football. I hate this team. I legitimately do. I don't even want this for them. It's terrible. It just said, like, what are you going to say? Like, yeah, we're heading down to Acrisure. Ugh. I don't want to go there. Heinz Field. It sounds classy. It sounds like football. I'm going to drink some more beer. All right. Next place we're going to move to is Tua. So Tyreek Hill's been blowing up Tua all offseason. He's just been gassing him up. This is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. It sucks that they put out that one video that he kind of underthrew me because this dude's been hitting me in stride all offseason. And then you look at the Dolphins as a whole and you see Tyreek Hill, you see Jalen Waddle, you see newly added now Mohamed Sanu, and you got Mark Gesicki over there at tight end. There's going to be some real expectations on Tua. Like, if the Dolphins don't come balling by week 3, there's going to be a problem there. And it's going to be falling on Tua. You've now changed the coach. Granted, there's a lot to be said about the coaching change, but you have somebody now who has had success within the Kyle Shanahan system, zone running scheme primarily with almost a West Coast based pass offense. If this doesn't work quickly, because I feel like this is pretty well tailored to Tua, this is going to be a disaster for Tua if it doesn't work. And you have the presence of Teddy Bridgewater just looming in the background. Because if Tua can't do it, or if Tua gets hurt, which he's been known to do, well, Teddy Bridgewater is going to step in there and he's going to deliver you 6-yard out routes left and right. He will hit these guys all over the place. It's not going to be exciting, but he'll be able to run that offense. Tua has to find a way to A, stay healthy, and B, just stay productive. Because honestly, you have the speed talent with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and now you have Raheem Mostert as one of your backfield pieces. You have so much speed on this team. You cannot accept things like taking sacks. And yeah, the offensive line's not great right now, but you got guys that fast. One of them should be running a slant every damn play. It just should be there. And you just have Gesicki there to just have like a little flat route or something. You got to have a plan B. If, say, for example, your play is, all right, what we want to do is get Tyreek on this double move down the sideline. Sounds great on the surface, but if that offensive line does not hold up, where do we put the ball? Need to have plan B and plan C ready. It's not going to work otherwise. That's the only way that this works. It's a big year for Tua. I hear a lot that Justin Herbert's got pressure on him this year to make the playoffs. And it's like, dude, if he ends up going 9-8 because he's in the hardest division in the NFL, I don't think that that's pressure on Justin Herbert. He's pretty well consensus. Absolutely top 10 quarterback in the NFL. A lot of people say top 5. You'll hear where I have him later. But I hear that there's pressure on him. I say, no, there's not. There absolutely is not. The pressure lies this year on Tua. That's the guy that you got to worry. Because if things don't go right for him, he's out of Miami. It's not going to happen. Next year's draft class is pretty good. And if I'm not mistaken, Miami's got all sorts of things that they could trade away and move up in the draft next year. The looming maybe Tom Brady makes his way over there. I 100% fully still expect that Tom Brady's going to be a Dolphin next year. Unless Tua balls out. It's the only way. I don't see another scenario in which that is not the case. It needs to be because Tua balls out. You have to know by the end of this year that Tua is the guy. We're going to move over to somebody else that it seems like the team is still debating if they're the guy, even though it doesn't make sense to me. Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson and Baltimore have been somewhat in talks of conversation for a new contract. And it seems as if Baltimore's reluctant to pay him. Sure, you can cite the injury he had last year, but he's stayed pretty healthy throughout his career, especially considering the way that he plays, A, and B, the way that you use him. Because keep in mind, yes, he might be a little bit prone to injury, but it's not like the system's helping him out when half the plays he does are double and triple option plays. Like, if he sees the lane, it's his job to take the lane. You going to crush a guy for that? You're going to tell him, oh, injury prone. Stop sending him up the middle. Like, that'll solve a lot of that. I know that what he got hurt on last year was him in the backfield trying to make a play and extend a play so that he could try to get out of something. And if I don't remember if it was Myles Garrett or not, but I know it was one of the Browns defensive linemen that caught him, and he just fell bad on his ankle. So here's something that I think a lot of people have forgotten, and we're going to get to this too when I bring the quarterback rankings into the conversation here. Did everybody forget that Lamar Jackson did win an MVP? I think you got to pay that. Like what are you going to go on the open market and what are you going to get, Baker? Like, you're not going to get something better than Lamar. All the good quarterbacks are already stationary where they're going to be. I don't foresee a scenario in which any of these guys come open, except for maybe Aaron Rodgers, who's going to be, 39 next season? Like, he's going to be 38 this one coming up, but by the end of it, we're going to be talking about a guy that's going to be turning 39. No. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to do what Tom Brady's doing. I think Aaron Rodgers is getting pretty close to the end. Tom Brady's still got another 50 years in him. Aaron Rodgers does not. Now, we're talking about an MVP here. I just don't understand this. I saw also an anonymous defensive coordinator. By the way, don't be anonymous. If you want to say something, say it. Put your name on it. Anonymous defensive coordinator says that he still doesn't view Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. Okay, what do you view him as? The guy that takes the snap from the center, sometimes throws the ball, sometimes runs the ball. The offense runs through him. Every play he touches the ball. But no, not a quarterback. Not a quarterback. What is he? I don't understand. I'm pretty sure that's like the description of what a quarterback is. So I just never will understand this one. And the other piece that this really drives to me is, how does Lamar view this season going in? If there's not a deal done, does he feel like he's playing to get a deal from his own team? Does he feel like he's already on his way out? Does he feel like he's going to play really hard to try to get a deal from another team? You got to keep in mind players' feelings these days. You know, in an age of player empowerment, I don't think that you can look at a case like Lamar Jackson's and just simply say, well, we're not sure if this is the guy. When the guy's won an MVP, I don't know how many times I got to keep saying this. He won a goddamn MVP. And it wasn't like a fluke thing. He earned it. He should have been MVP that year. Either him or Mahomes. That's the only other guy that I would say would be in the conversation that particular season. So what are you worried about? It just pay Lamar, please. And, the other question that I have about Lamar is, how long can he sustain being healthy with the style that he plays? Granted, I still think that you give him a 5 or 6 year deal because he is young enough. He's going to be able to give you 5 or 6 years of exactly what you're seeing. Yeah, there will eventually be a drop off. He won't be able to run faster than all the fast guys. He won't be able to make everybody miss. He won't be able to play this way maybe 10 years from now. But you have 5 or 6 years in front of you that you can absolutely sign him to, and you know that you get exactly this player. Pull the trigger. Baltimore, what are you doing? Like, this one bothers me much more than, say, for example, the Kyler Murray deal. With Kyler Murray, I think he's a very good quarterback. I can understand where you might be on the borderline of, well, I mean, he's threatening that maybe he'll just go play baseball. We don't really get hurt by that. Lamar Jackson ain't leaving to play baseball. He's going to be somebody's quarterback. And yes, I know that Kyler at this point is re-signed. And again, I do think Kyler Murray, you'll hear him on this list as well. He's a very good quarterback in this league. I would not move off of him. But Lamar Jackson, I think, is an absolute necessity to your roster if you have him. So here we go, guys. It's the moment we've been waiting for. You know what? The moment we've been waiting for is this next beer. Had that ready to go. Welcome to Cracking a Cold One with Colbs for those of you that listen to Jacked and Canned. Bump the mic. All right. Here we go. So this list encompasses the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. So for those of you looking to hear the names of Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, who else just didn't make it? I feel like I'm missing one or two guys that I was going to bring up here, but it's beside the point. Carson Wentz, that was the other one that I was going to bring up. They're on the OLI. They're still looking in. I think that I have here what are the 15 top quarterbacks in the NFL currently. Number 15, Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan has had somewhat of a drop-off from the prime of his career. Absolutely. His Super Bowl season where he won NFL MVP, that was his best season. And his rookie year, I would assume, was his worst. So when you take away those 2 years, you've had a pretty stable, good quarterback over the course of that time. And there's been a little bit of drop-off. So in the past, where I would say that Matt Ryan has been somewhere between maybe the 7th and 9th best quarterback in the league, he's not that anymore. But the problems in Atlanta were not Matt Ryan problems. That whole team was just in shambles. Matt Ryan now moves over to Indianapolis. I think that I know he's got the best pass protecting offensive line that there is in football. Matt Ryan is going to be able to sit pretty in that pocket. And granted, the weaponry beyond Michael Pittman Jr. isn't great. But I think Matt Ryan's going to be able to make that work. And he does at least have one number one go-to guy that he can get the ball to that's going to make plays for him. I think we see a resurgence of Matt Ryan. However, I still think of him as the 15th best quarterback in the NFL. Number 14. I actually went back and forth a lot on 13, 14 here. Number 14, I'm going to have Kirk Cousins. I think that Kirk Cousins, by arm talent itself, the mixture of accuracy, delivery of the ball, and arm strength, I would say is much higher on this list. But Kirk Cousins has a flaw that I think is now quantifiable. It's not something that is just rumor. It's not myth. It's not legend. Kirk Cousins really comes up short in big games. Now, everybody's seen like his Sunday and Monday night numbers where that's, it's like this abysmal record. Kirk Cousins just loses every time he plays on primetime. But guess what all the games are in the playoffs? They're all primetime. There's no such thing as a non-nationally televised playoff game in the NFL. Every one of them is on national television. And Kirk Cousins does not play well on those. And granted, do I think it has really all to do with television? No. But I think it's an admission to that he struggles playing against other good teams. That's problematic. And even though I really wanted to put him 13 here, and I know we're picking hairs at going 13 versus 14, but I think the Kirk Cousins flaw is a greater one than number 13. Number 13 is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, although does not beat all the good teams, he beats some of them. And depending on how good the rest of the Cowboys roster is, he can beat damn near all of them. I think that Dak Prescott is a quarterback that you can win a championship with as long as the team around him is very, very good. I don't think that Dak's somebody that's bringing you to the Super Bowl by himself. But I do think that Dak has the ability to lift a roster, he can bring a good roster to a great roster, in my opinion. I think that Dak Prescott has the leadership quality to do so. And even though he does not have the arm talent that Kirk Cousins has, and that's where I struggled with this, because I really wanted to put Kirk above Dak just due to the arm difference. It's not worth it. Dak wins. And I even have made fun of the Cowboys over the course of the last 2 or 3 seasons while they've just been crushing the NFC East and losing to everybody else. Dak's not the reason why. Now, Dak hasn't been the best in these scenarios, but there's a reason he's number 13. Number 12, Derek Carr. This one kind of hurt me to put him down here because I actually thought that Derek Carr was going to come in higher when I was doing this list. Derek Carr is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think he has a very good head on his shoulders as far as decision-making ability is concerned. The problem with Derek Carr, in my eyes, he struggles to put the ball downfield regularly. He doesn't take shots. He doesn't take a lot of chances. And to be a great quarterback, you have to let it fly occasionally. Like, I know that people always go to the Brett Favre deal where you say, well, yeah, he threw interceptions, but at least he took chances. And you could say that about guys like Andrew Luck and John Elway, even. Great quarterbacks. And that was the difference. I just didn't want to make it a cliche and only include Brett Favre when I made that little that little list of people. But Derek Carr loves to hit that 6-yard route. It's almost like a super inflated Teddy Bridgewater. And that's where I think he falls short of most of the other quarterbacks that are on this list, if not all of them. But Derek Carr has also a real leadership quality like that of Dak Prescott. And he just brought, I don't know if you guys remember the way the last year was unfolding for the Vegas Raiders. They had to fire their coach midseason for being an asshole. They've been going through all sorts of different changes in their front office and their ownership group. It seemed like the team was kind of in shambles. Derek Carr brought the Raiders all the way to the end of the year. And if I'm not mistaken, pushed them into the playoffs. I'm pretty sure they made it to the wild card round. Unless I got something wrong, I'm pretty sure they made it. That's a hell of a season. And I know that back in whatever it was, like 2012, somewhere around there, where he had that one season, the Raiders were 12-4, and everybody was like, holy shit, Derek Carr's great. And oddly enough, comparing him to Brett Favre, they were like, he's a gunslinger. Well, clearly that season was maybe not indicative of what Derek Carr's career is, but a lot of people expected more of that. And honestly, I think if he went back to a little bit more of that stylistically, he'd probably have a little bit more success than he's had here recently. But Derek Carr has been the glue that's held that organization together, at least as far as the football team presenting itself on the field. Number 11, Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray, he's small. And the problem here is that it's not even the height itself. It's that he tends to get hurt. And when he gets hurt, he doesn't play well through injury. I know that we're playing in a league these days where things are supposed to be player safe as much as they can be. So it's supposed to be, well, the player shouldn't get hurt. Injuries happen all across the NFL. And to an extent, players have to play through at least minor things here and there. Kyler Murray has something lingering by week 11 pretty much every year. And it just never gets better throughout the course of the rest of the season. And that's where I worry about Kyler Murray, because what I see from him early in seasons, this guy is phenomenal. We're talking like a top 7, top 6 quarterback in the NFL. But you have that drop off that happens, and it is precipitous, and you see it every year. It's almost like somebody's got a time clock on it, and they're like, okay, and it's Kyler Murray's time to fail. There it is. But Kyler Murray, when you look at some of the physical qualities that he's got there, granted, I know the physical qualities might sound a little bit strange considering his size, but he has the ability to move in ways that are really very comparable to a Russell Wilson. He moves almost identically to him, probably a little bit quicker, if anything else. And I think that Kyler throws a beautiful ball. It's usually got almost a dead ass perfect spiral. It's accurate. It's not the deepest arm, but it's deep enough. I mean, you don't have to bomb over the back of defenses. You don't have to be Mahomes and Andrew Luck to be able to play in this league. You don't have to have that Matt Stafford, Joe Flacco arm. Like Kyler Murray, he's got a strong enough arm. It's not great. It's good. Guess who else never had a very strong arm? Tom Brady. All right. Like this, I'd say it's pretty comparable to when Brady was in his prime. He was still able to find Randy Moss 50 yards downfield, no problem. So I would say that Kyler Murray has all the physical abilities to be able to play this position better than damn near anybody else. I worry about his injury history and the fact that he tends to slide at the end of seasons. Granted, I think that those two things go hand in hand, but I'm not 100% sure. We're going to take another sip of the beer because, again, a little pissy today. Then we're going to get into the top 10. Number 10. This one was a little bit rough for me. I'm making somewhat of an assumption here, and you guys are going to know when I say it why I'm doing that. Desean Watson. So, upon seeing Desean Watson play last, I would have had him pretty close to the top 5 at that time. If not in the top 5, just outside of it. He now hasn't thrown a football in over a year. He's going to a totally new team, might be suspended for the first however long that he's with this new team. I don't know how that's going to translate. I feel that there's going to have to be rust that shakes off. Like, there's no way there's not. But if he can get back to form relatively quickly, this guy was somebody who was throwing the ball better than almost every quarterback in the NFL from the last time that he was playing football. And we can talk about what he does off the field. I know that that's the thing to do right now. I don't really want to praise this guy right now. And so, you know what? I'm not gonna. We're going to stop it right there on him. We're going to move into the top 10. Number 9, Lamar Jackson. So, again, a lot of people that have been making these lists have been leaving Lamar off of their top 10, and I understand why. But did you forget that he won a fucking MVP? I don't know how many times I got to say this. He won an MVP. He's really good. He's really good. And a lot of people, I think that they think that he had a bad year last year. He got hurt. He didn't play. He didn't have a bad year. He just wasn't there. And yeah, honestly, it's probably the only reason I have him at number 9 is because I do have some injury worries. Lamar Jackson, when he plays, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He has some of the abilities, and granted, his throwing abilities are not as good as pretty much everybody else on this list. Might be better than a couple of them. But his ability to change the game with what he can do with his legs, different from everybody else on this list. He's a greater threat. When you're looking at 3rd and 13, you can go ahead and play that prevent defense. You can go ahead and play like a deep zone. You can bring everybody back. All the receivers are covered. You can't fit a ball in anywhere. Cool. He's just going to go run for it. Go ahead. Stop him. I dare you. Go ahead and keep Lamar Jackson from getting 13 yards when he needs 13 yards. He's going to get it. One of the most dangerous red zone threats by himself in the NFL. It's kind of like Cam Newton, except that it's not that he might run through you. It's just that he's so damn fast, you can't beat him to the corner, no matter what angle you take. Lamar Jackson is phenomenal, man. I really just don't understand why it is that everybody has fallen off of the Lamar Jackson train. Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in this league, and I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of this season, if we're looking at him as higher than number 9 in the league. And the only reason that he is where he is because there are 8 really, really good quarterbacks in the NFL right now, like Drew Lock. I'm sorry. I tried. I couldn't even take myself seriously. Number 8, Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow clearly pretty much by himself brought Cincinnati to the Super Bowl last year. I might be going too low on Joe Burrow. I really might be. Because so far in his first year, he looked very promising up until his, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a torn ACL in like week 4 or 5. He looked really good in his first few NFL games. Then he comes back and puts together that year. This guy's awesome. The only reason he's even 8 is because I'm just not sure that he's as good as all these other quarterbacks. And honestly, this is another one where I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, did I do a thing with my number 7 where maybe I overblew him too much and I should have had him further down than Joe Burrow? But I have a hard time doing so because number 7 is Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, even when he was in Detroit, when I would make these lists, he typically came somewhere between 8 and 11. So this isn't incredibly different for where I have him. And part of this might just be the weaponry that he has. And that's the part where I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I don't know that I did this right, where Matt Stafford and Joe Burrow specifically, I feel like I could have flip-flopped them there. But Matt Stafford won the title. He's the current champion. And maybe I'm even doing a little bit of a thing of giving him a lifetime achievement award by having him a spot above Joe Burrow. But Matt Stafford's been a phenomenal quarterback for 13 years in the NFL, going into year 14, I believe. Matt Stafford's great. He's got some of the best arm power that I've seen in a quarterback. He's up there. It's like him, Joe Flacco, Jay Cutler, Jeff George. He's got one of those arms. And Josh Allen is also in that conversation. Additionally, Matt Stafford's always been able to find the guy. I know that he took heat when Calvin Johnson was getting close to his end, and then when he retired, Matt Stafford won't be able to do it without Calvin Johnson. Well, no, it wasn't the lack of Calvin Johnson. Matt Stafford was making it work with receivers whose names you do not know. Matt Stafford was making it work because he was a good quarterback. The Lions' problem was never Matt Stafford. It was the whole rest of the team, like every single one of them. They had a 53-man roster. 52 of the players were the problem. It was just Matt Stafford that was making it work. And granted, yeah, he was making it work to be in like a 3-13 team. They would have been 0-16 without Matt Stafford. So Matt Stafford here, clearly he comes over to LA, first year championship. I mean, that tells me that this guy's pretty damn good, right? Jared Goff was there. Jared Goff ain't on this list. And Jared Goff's plenty talented physically. He's just not a great decision maker. And sometimes has strange accuracy issues that I can't explain because he has an incredibly accurate ball at times. Jared Goff's kind of a weird conundrum for me. Number 6, probably going to be unpopular here for most people, but I do believe this. Justin Herbert. Reason that I would say that this is unpopular is I think most people would have him in their top 5. I can't do that. When I look at who's in my top 5, I do not have any of them being a lesser quarterback than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, talent-wise, probably top 3 or 4 on this list. But I need to see winning before I can put you above certain players. Hence the next 2. But Justin Herbert doesn't have a attribute flaw anywhere in his game. He's a great decision maker. If anything, that's the thing you could probably hit him with, is that he sometimes will take a chance that's not necessary. Oh, no. Like, that's the end of the world. That's going to do it. No, Justin Herbert's phenomenal. Accuracy, not an issue. Arm strength, not an issue. Ability to move, not an issue. You guys might not even notice this. Justin Herbert moves quicker than most quarterbacks in the NFL. Justin Herbert doesn't have a physical flaw, but he needs to win. And he's got a roster now that should win. And I know that I keep making the statement that there's no pressure on him to make the playoffs. I do stand by that. But he would definitely move up the roster, this ranking sheet here, if I saw more winning out of him this year. I don't think my top 15 quarterback rankings list matters to Justin Herbert. Going to be honest. Pretty sure he doesn't give a shit. But that's the only reason that he's outside of the top 5 for me. I need to see winning. Number 5, the ultimate winner, Tom Brady. Physical gifts, and here's one thing. Tom Brady, throughout the course of his whole career, has never been the most physically gifted quarterback. His arm strength has been above average, but it's not great. And at this point in his career, it's fine. It's good. It's not phenomenal. Accuracy, he's pretty damn accurate. I would definitely say he's upper echelon. I, the best? No, I wouldn't say that. Decision making, usually pretty top tier. But he has moments where he'll throw a pick six and it's like, whoa. You don't expect it. So when you first see it, it's shocking. It's baffling. It's like, whoa, Tom Brady threw a pick six. But he does it from time to time. But this guy goes out there and he wins every damn time. Like when they were down 27-3 against the Rams or whatever they were down, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm watching the game with some friends of mine. I'm like, he's got him right where he wants him. I was sure that Brady and the Bucs were winning that game against the Rams. I was shocked when Cooper Kupp somehow went unguarded 2 straight plays. Tom Brady just wins. I don't know how else to explain it. Tom Brady deserves to be in this top 5. He really does. I don't care that none of the attributes physically match up to half the guys on this thing. Tom Brady wins, and he always will. He always did, he always does, and he always will. You can't take that away. Tom Brady, number 5. Number 4, another guy that wins, Russell Wilson. So, again, I could understand if people want to tell me, no, it's Justin Herbert over Russell Wilson. Fine. Russell Wilson wins. Yeah, he's only got 1 Super Bowl. It's more than almost everybody that I've mentioned so far. Actually, out of everybody, as I'm looking through it, the only player that has is Matt Stafford. That's weird. Russell Wilson has very good arm talent. I wouldn't go as far as great. I think that would be pushing it. He throws a very pretty deep ball. Throws a pretty damn good mid-level ball. Obviously, he can throw the dump off pretty well. Everybody can, except for Tim Tebow. Russell Wilson has an ability to move the pocket when he has actually a stable offensive line, to move the pocket in a way that changes. It really changed the game to an extent, which is something that Kyler Murray is now emulating. And Russell Wilson will always find where the guy is. And it doesn't have to, like, one thing that always gets me, before the name Jermaine Kearse was even known, when the Seahawks were in the NFC Championship game the year after they won the Super Bowl, so this was to go to back-to-back Super Bowls, they go into overtime against the Packers in a game they had been down all game. They finally get this thing tied up. It gets sent to overtime. And on the first possession from right about the 50, Russell Wilson just up and cannons one to a semi-open Jermaine Kearse and just puts the trust. Yep, I believe he's going to come down with it and win the game right now. Not every quarterback knows how to do that. That's something that guys like, say, for example, Tom Brady, they understand. Hey, who's the open guy? I'm going to get it to him. I don't care if I trust him, or I don't care if I should trust him. I do, inexplicably, because he plays on my team. That's something that Russell Wilson does that very few quarterbacks understand. And I know that over the last few years, he's had Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and before that, he had Doug Baldwin. But other than DK Metcalf, he hasn't had a receiver with like these prime physical attributes to be able to get the ball to. And he's made it work his whole career. He's had stable guys in Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett. He hasn't had that, wow, look at that guy kind of receiver. He doesn't need it. Now he goes over to Denver. I'm sure he's about to make them look like one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL. I have no doubt in my mind that Denver's going to be a top-level team next year, even though we'll get there when we get there. But I think some people are a little high on Denver right now. But it ain't going to be because of the quarterback. Sorry, guys. That was a beer break. Number 3, Aaron Rodgers. So This is going to be a really telling season for Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers now is going to be coming out there with the ghost of Sammy Watkins and a bunch of kids. Aaron Rodgers has had Devontae Adams for a pretty damn long time. Before that, for a large chunk of his career, he had Jordy Nelson. And there was a time when he had Greg Jennings. He's had good receivers. So this is a time period now where Aaron Rodgers has not even a real number one or even virtually a number two. He has guys. Can Aaron Rodgers make this work? The Packers have gone 13-3 either the last 2 or 3 seasons, haven't made it to a Super Bowl. And believe me, Aaron Rodgers is pissed. You will know that if you've ever listened to Jack and Canned. You know that Aaron Rodgers is pissed. But is it enough? Now, when I look at Aaron Rodgers' attributes, there are 3 people that I think throw a football better than anybody else in the history of the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Dan Marino. Those 3 guys, when the ball comes out of their hand, it is better, it is prettier, and I don't know how else to describe it. Like, I want to just do like chef's kiss, but I already said it when I said perfect. There's no flaw in the throw. And it lands right where it should every time. He has that ability. Can he make it work? Can he get over himself a little? Because let's be honest, that's where Aaron Rodgers is right now. He has to be able to play with the kids and do it the right way. At the moment, even if he's at his best, I still think he's number 3. Number 2, Josh Allen. Holy shit, is he fun to watch, huh? I've never seen a quarterback that just puts his shoulder down and runs through guys like that. And he hurdles people and shit. One time I was watching Josh Allen, I actually thought I witnessed death on an NFL field. Not to make things negative and doom and gloom. It was a game against the Patriots a couple years ago. Josh Allen did one of those, I believe it was a hurdle. I think he hurdled somebody and then got hit helmet to helmet so goddamn hard right at the first down line. I was sure. I was like, oh my God, I just saw the worst thing that you can watch while watching football. Yeah, he missed the rest of that game. And he was back next week, putting the shoulder down, running into guys. Like, dude, this guy's made of steel. But in all seriousness, Josh Allen, he has maybe, I would say definitely as of right now, he has the most powerful arm in the NFL as far as just ability to throw the ball deep. I think he can throw it further than anybody else. He struggled massively with accuracy early in his career. And it's still not premium accuracy that you see from him. If you look at his numbers, they've definitely climbed from a percentage standpoint, but it's still not top of the top. But it's still an unbelievable growth. And when you look at his percentage on deep balls, it's up there with some of the best. Josh Allen has really had a turnaround as far as just his ability to hit a moving target. Because for a long time, his rookie year, I was sure this guy was not going to make it in the NFL. I was like, oh no, oh, that is the worst I have seen in a while. I thought it was Tebow. I really did. Yeah, that's how wrong I was. I thought that Josh Allen was going to be Tim Tebow. Now he sits number 2 on my quarterbacks going into the 2022 season list. He's phenomenal. He doesn't have a whole lot of flaws outside of that. He does not possess premium accuracy. That's the only knock I would have against Josh Allen's physical game. And he's so fun. Like, if you just put Josh Allen highlights on a loop, I will sit there and watch repetitively. The only guy that does it more so, and you probably figured out who number 1 is by now. We're going to take a beer break because, well, you already know. Sorry for the extensive beer breaks. I not having the best day. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, he's the most exciting quarterback I've ever watched in my life. Kansas City didn't give him a long enough deal. I would have personally signed him for like 25 years. Um, he's the funnest fucking thing I've ever seen in football. Like outside of maybe like Michael Vick or Barry Sanders, who just did things that nobody else did. Patrick Mahomes just always makes touchdowns happen at times that they don't look like they should happen. I don't understand it. Like that Chiefs Bills game last year, that was the funnest. That was my second favorite game I've ever watched. Both of my favorite two games, by the way, that I've ever watched, excluding the Seahawks Super Bowl win, both were Patrick Mahomes games. One of which he lost. It was that Monday Night Football game against the Rams a few years back. It was like 54-51, I think it was. And then that Bills Chiefs game, which by the way started out looking like it was going to be this defensive struggle or at least offensive struggle to get it going. And then all of a sudden it was just touchdown, 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 touchdown. I was like, oh my God. I call it football crack. It's the best thing in the world. I couldn't get enough of that. Honestly, if they were still playing that same game right now, I still wouldn't have left the TV set. Actually, you know what? I probably would have because eventually the power would have gotten shut off. But I could still be watching it. It's nuts. Patrick Mahomes does not have a flaw outside, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, if you play the too deep coverage, he'll be fine." Look, it took 3 years for people to figure out that, oh, we can slow him down if we do this. I'm sure he's been working this offseason, especially without Tyreek Hill there. I'm sure he's figuring it out. Get ready for next year. You're going to see Patrick Mahomes come out there, and he might play a little differently than you're used to. It's still going to be awesome. It's going to be the best in the league. I always say on Jacked and Canned because I give my weekly power rankings there. And I always have Kansas City, typically number one. Took them a while to get there this last year, but I had them number one by the end of the year. And what I always say is, well, they're just better than you. Well, the reason they're better than you is their quarterback. It's Patrick Mahomes and it's Andy Reid. I have no doubt about it. Kansas City, even without Tyreek Hill, still going to be one of the best teams in football this year. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. There is not a flaw in his game beyond that. He occasionally can make some really shitty decisions. But I think it comes from him being the funnest quarterback that's ever existed. I will never go against this take. I think that Patrick Mahomes likely will be number one on this list for me for the next 10 years. I'd be shocked if he's not. If somebody comes up and shows me that they are better than Patrick Mahomes, I'm shocked. I just don't see it. Even in games that he loses, do you remember that Super Bowl against Tom Brady and the Bucs? He hit throws that I've never seen made. And it was just unfortunate because his receivers kept dropping the ball. I'm trying to explain to Michelle how good this guy is while we're watching the game here on the TV right behind me. And she's like, so isn't he supposed to? I'm like, he will. And he actually was sometimes. Like he could have had that team back in there if not for dropped balls. Patrick Mahomes, phenomenal. He's number one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the end here of Nobody is Shiftier this week. Next week, I don't want to give the playoff predictions just yet. We're not going to do power rankings just yet. Could do an MVP discussion, but frankly, I'll be honest, offseason MVP discussions, they don't do it for me. I think that it's going too far. I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. We might rank another position. We're going to have to see what we do here. But we're going to continue some list of football coverage leading up to the beginning of the NFL season because this is the time of year to do it. You do it between now and the start of the regular season. Everybody that was doing this in early July, you did it wrong because now you got to cover a whole month of preseason football. Good for you. I'm going to go ahead and wait till the actual games start, and now I can go through all the bullshit. Maybe watch some NBA football, people. In the meantime, that's going to do it this week for Nobody is Shiftier because nobody is shiftier. Shifty Hippo.